Coming up on today's Cowboys Report, we will look at some of the winners and losers from the 2025 NFL Draft. Not the players that were drafted or the grades or who didn't get drafted, but I'm talking about players who were already on the Cowboys roster, whose stocks maybe went up a little bit. Maybe their roles are more likely to be heavily involved. And the opposite, players who, maybe they're on the roster bubble now. Cowboys made 9 picks. They also will sign, 9 UDFAs, but we'll focus on the draft picks, or the players on the roster and how they were impacted by the draft picks. Before we dive into that, Marshall Green, our Giants Now host, said, "We can't get to 1,500 likes on today's show. Let's prove him wrong. Like the video for me right now." We're doing green for the winners, and I know it looks kind of like the Seahawks colors, but we're doing green because it's winners. First up is Jalen Tolbert. I want another wide receiver too. Make no mistake about that. But the Cowboys did not take one. They wanted Tedderone McMillan. He was not there for them at number 12. The value never aligned in rounds 2 and round 3, and by that point, the ability to get a wide receiver 2 was pretty much gone. So for now, Tolbert is again in line to be this team's number 2 option. I think somewhere along the way the correct desire to add a better wide receiver 2, we've kind of turned like Jalen Tolbert into 2018 Deontay Thompson somehow. Or like 2018 Allen Hurns. He's better than that. I think you need better, but I don't think Tolbert is some complete scrub the way some are presenting him as. I don't think it's going to be good enough if he's your wide receiver 2. I think you plug him back in the wide receiver 3 spot. Maybe you feel a little bit better about that. He did put up 610 yards last year. It's not nothing. It's just that can't be your number 2 receiver. Sticking in the wide receiver room with the winners, Jonathan Mingo. I am a little bit concerned. This is going to start to approach at some point you're going to have the Cowboys might say, well, we spent a 4th-round pick on a wide receiver. His name was Jonathan Mingo. I don't like that idea. He's going to get a shot. I still think he's better as like the big slot type, kind of use him on crossers and get him going, horizontally. I think the Cowboys are going to give him a shot to be an X receiver. What's unfortunate is 2024 with Dallas was a wasted season. And it's not really even Mingo's fault. He got open sometimes. Man, you're catching less than a third of your targets, in part because the quarterback play was just not very good, especially down the stretch. But I think there are issues with Mingo's game and everything involved there. I think ideal world right now is next year he's the wide receiver 3 behind whoever the true wide receiver 2 is, and he replaces Tolbert in that role. But I really don't want to go into training camp with a Mingo-Tolbert battle. Not because they can't be your receiver 3 and 4 or whatever, plus Turpin. You need more than that if you want to be an actual playoff team, like a good playoff team. So will the Cowboys get a better number 2 wide receiver? Y for yes, N for no? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Let's go to depth wide receivers because they didn't draft anybody, which, again, this isn't a huge surprise. I do think Stephen Jones was being accurate for once when he said, wide receiver 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. I think they are in pretty good shape. If you put in a better 2, and then you got Tolbert, Turpin in kind of a gadgety role, Mingo, letting Flanoy, Brooks, etc. all fight for those backup wide receiver spots, and maybe Paris Campbell turns back the clock, which I think is a bit unlikely to the one good year he had in the NFL. The depth is solid. It's that number 2 spot that is sorely lacking. And I want to mention Jake Ferguson, kind of as part of this as well. Look, the pressure is on Fergie. He was not good last year. This was a pretty colossal disappointment. Maybe he added too much weight going in the year to try to be a better blocker. The knee injury early in the year kind of robbed him a little bit. He needs to look more like the 2023 version. Now, even the 2023 version puts up the exact same numbers. That's probably that's good as a tight end. That's good if that's like your 3rd or 4th receiving option. Not good if it's your number 2 option. This is not a, prime George Kittle, Travis Kelce-esque player. That's just not who Jake Ferguson is. But I do think he can contribute and be a lot better than what he was in 2024. Look like 2023 version. I don't know if any player suffered more from the lack of Dak Prescott than Jake Ferguson did. Those two had the chemistry that, simply put, Rush and Fergie did not. It was more Rush and Schoonmaker than anything else. Cowboys did not draft a tight end at all. They're going to let Fergie again be tight end 1. Now, it is always tough to have more likes in April than in March here on the Cowboys. The Cowboys actually do stuff in free agency, even if it's not the stuff we always want. There's one less day. We have a chance to pull this off. It is the final day to get the like battle caught up. We're down by a little under 2,000. Doesn't factor in some of the videos from yesterday. It's always a day behind. So I think we can do it. If you haven't already, please and thank you, like today's show. Next up is Mazi Smith, the defensive tackle. The Cowboys did draft one in the 7th round. Jalen Tolbert out of UCLA, big body. But they're going to give Mazi Smith another chance to kind of shed the bust label, which I don't think it's totally fair to give it to him right now. But, I mean, come on, we're trending in that direction. I think we all know that. I thought we saw better stuff from him. I thought we saw flashes of good play from Mazi Smith, even against some of the NFC East teams they'll get to face again this upcoming season. I need a lot more. I need more. I need him to become a starting caliber defensive tackle. I don't think he's starting caliber right now. There were games he was above starting caliber. That one Giants game, he was awesome. And it was obvious, not even just doing the dirty work, but like making splash plays too. But it's a couple 7th rounders who are pushing right now. Mazi Smith, Toby out of UCLA, Rodgers as well, who was also a 7th round pick. That's great. They have some extra bodies there. I need a big year for Mazi Smith, or else we're going to go in the next offseason going, got to get a new one technique, and Mazi is going to be on the roster bubble if that does not happen. I also want to mention Israel Mukuamu, because I think that Israel Mukuamu has a chance to be this year's Rico Dowdle, a player who was brought back on a pretty cheap contract, the money of which didn't even guarantee him a starting spot. But because of the lack of other options, there's a real chance for Israel Mukuamu to earn a starting role. The Cowboys drafted an outside guy in Vaughn Revel out of ECU. They did not draft a nickel, and that puts Izzy as one of the top options at that spot. Well, Diggs is not going to be healthy for week 1. Deron Bland might stick on the outside. Maybe he kicks inside if like a Kaiir Elam, Kalen Carson impresses. But your nickel options right now are kind of Mukuamu and Kamon Hall, who is like a career journeyman practice squatter type. Carson and Elam and Diggs and Revel are, even Andrew Booth, guys are not nickel options. So I think he's got a real chance. And every time he gets to play, I'm pretty impressed by him. I think Israel Mukuamu is probably one of the most slept-on players on this Cowboys roster, and I want to see him get a chance to show what he can do. Wouldn't have been mad if they'd added another nickel, because I think that would have benefited them, but I am excited to see Mukuamu get a true chance to earn a role. So name a Cowboys winner, I should say, from the 2025 NFL Draft. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Finally, the safeties. Again, this is kind of the lack of additions, right? Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell. 2 of them got re-signed by the Cowboys in Bell and Thomas. 2 of them were kind of like, maybe they could get cut. Maybe something weird happens. They're back. The Cowboys signed 3 undrafted free agents. Those should not be viewed as like starting caliber competition. That's kind of more like, depth preseason stuff. So if you like Hooker and Wilson, congrats. If you don't, it looks like they're going to be your starters again this year. But maybe Bell and Thomas can push them. Either way, the big 4 remain the big 4 there. Let's go to the losers. Damone Clark is first up on this list, as promised on a previous video. If I were Damone Clark, I would be kind of feeling the pressure to find a way to make this Cowboys roster. He had fallen out of favor last year and is, I think, in danger of not making this Cowboys team. He's got a $3.47 million cap hit. The savings, if you cut him, whenever you cut him or trade him, is 3.41. That's, for a penny-pinching team, that is not an insignificant amount for a non-starter. Clark fell out of favor last year. He went from, kind of being a starter, was a starter in 2023, to, okay, Overshown is clearly better, to, we're going to try a lot of different other options on that spot right now. And DeMarvion Overshown will not be ready for week 1, so put him on the PUP list, whatever. Kenneth Murray, Maurice Liufau, Shamar James. There's 3. They're going to make this team probably. Murray could be a stunning cut, but I'd be surprised. Jack Sanborn. There's 4. That linebacker 5 and 6, that's special team stuff. Justin Barron can play special teams. Darius Harris can play special teams. Buddy Johnson can do it. And if it's a tiebreaker between the 5th and 6th spots, between, let's say, it's Clark, Barron, and Johnson, they might take the cheaper one, given the fact that Overshown will be back at some point this year. And at that point, that puts Damone Clark firmly on the bubble. Captain Insano Brock Hoffman on this list. He'll make the team, don't get me wrong. But the drafting of Tyler Booker kind of relegates Brock Hoffman to, hey, he might be a right guard starter in 2025 to, okay, he is your best backup interior offensive lineman. And I think there's a very valid argument that's probably the best spot for Brock Hoffman to be that super sub at left guard, center, right guard, whatever is needed. Bring some of that psycho attitude you need to an offensive line room. I thought Hoffman was pretty solid. Frankly, in part because of the injury Zach Martin was dealing with, I thought Brock Hoffman had played better than Zach Martin was last year. But I do think Tyler Booker is going to be I don't know about significant day one, but by the end of year one, probably upgrade over the Hoffman and the rest of the crew at the right guard spot. So, obvious loser since the path to a starting role was really hard for Hoffman right now. Sam Williams is next up here, the edge rusher. Cowboys just are addicted to spending second-round picks on defensive ends, aren't they? They love doing it. Randy Gregory, Tank Lawrence, but now there's 3 of them on this roster. Donovan Ezeraku is the newest. They took Marshawn Nealon last year, and now you got Sam Williams in a contract season, coming off of an injury. I think the Cowboys' moves this offseason are indicative of, hey, we need defensive end depth, and we are not convinced Sam Williams is going to be a part of this team beyond this upcoming season. Dante Fowler's on a 1-year deal, yes, but Ezeraku, I liked him more than Sam Williams just on my boards and grades relative to when they came out of school. I think they're saying Ezeraku is our other edge opposite Micah Parsons with Marshawn Nealon, not Sam Williams. Hopefully he plays well. I will be fingers crossed that Sam Williams is able to make some impact plays happen and deliver on the promise we've seen, but he's going to have to earn that playing time. It's not going to be given to him the same way it was kind of trending towards last offseason. Our small king has to be on here too. That is Deuce Vaughn, excuse me. I'm reading Williams above me going full Ron Burgundy. Cowboys drafted 2 backs. Jaden Blue, who brings the explosiveness as a change of pace back that Deuce Vaughn does not, and Phil Maffa, who looks like Deuce Vaughn ate Deuce Vaughn on the field. There's the path to the 53-man roster is going to be tough for Deuce. There's 4 new backs on this team. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa. I believe in Deuce Vaughn, our small king, but it's going to be a tough path because they're going to give, like, Jaden Blue's going to make this team. Tiebreakers, like, can Deuce Vaughn earn a special teams role? That's how you get squeezed off a roster, who could still be a prime practice squad candidate, by the way. I liked what I saw in the final game of the season from Deuce Vaughn. Turns out you give him a chance and decent things happen. He was clearly much better when all of a sudden the handoffs aren't coming in garbage time, right? But, can he beat out Miles Sanders? Can he beat out Devontae Williams? I don't know. Name a loser for the Cowboys from the 2025 NFL Draft. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Finally, it is Trevon Diggs, and we'll go more in depth on this probably on Thursday's live show, or from Thursday's live show. The drafting of Savone Revel with, I think, a desire from this organization to re-sign DaRon Bland very much puts Trevon Diggs' future in doubt, and it's on notice. The Cowboys, as we'll get into later, very much kind of like called out Diggs for some of the stuff, like challenged and was like, you didn't, basically straight up said they didn't think he worked hard enough last year. They publicly stated that, which had been reported previously. Diggs is coming off an injury. He's not going to be ready for week 1. It's really unfortunate. He has hardly played football the last 2 years. I think when he has played, even last year, despite the very real tackling woes, I thought he was playing some good football. But if Revel is what I think he can be, because I think there is a possibility that, put it this way, if Revel was healthy, he would have been my highest graded player that the Cowboys drafted this year. I think there absolutely is a scenario in which Revel is the best corner or best player from this class. If they pay Diggs or they pay Bland, they're probably not going to pay Diggs either at the same time. So it is the drafting of Revel, I think, does put Diggs' future in doubt.